Hey, what's up guys? It's Brennan here from Addict Gaming, and in this video we are going to talk about the Thief changes that came in with the September 9th feature patch. Now before we begin, I will say that this patch hasn't been very well received by the Thief community, mostly due to the effect it had on the sword dagger and the dagger pistol weapon sets. And currently there is a very large bug with the steal ability, and we'll cover all of this in the video later on. But before we get into the video, I just wanted to give you guys a piece of advice. When new changes come into any game, it's very easy for people to overreact to those changes. And that's not to say that there aren't very valid reasons to overreact. But just remember that sometimes it takes a little while for changes to work themselves out. That doesn't mean every single change is actually going to work itself out, but let's be a little bit patient and maybe in a month's time or so see where these changes stand. So what was ArenaNet's goal for the Thief during this patch? Well, the goal for the Thief was to basically improve on their traits. The newer Grandmaster traits that all the classes received, they thought that the Thieves needed a lot of improvement, and then they wanted to adjust some of the other smaller traits throughout the trees. So let's take a look at the changes and see if they accomplished what they set out to do. Now, the first change is to the trait Panic Strike, which is a Grandmaster trait in the Deadly Arts trait line. So Panic Strike immobilizes a target once they reach below 50% HP. It used to immobilize the target for 4 seconds, now it immobilizes the target for 2.5 seconds, but they also reduced the cooldown of the trait from 30 seconds to 20 seconds. And this is a common theme we are seeing in the class changes, is that they are reducing a lot of cooldowns, but then also reducing the length of the effect that those cooldowns provide. Now I do like changes like this because it makes the game a lot faster, but when we talk about the trait Panic Strike, I really don't think it's worth a Grandmaster trait. The 2.5 second immobilize on a 20-second cooldown only if the target is below 50% HP seems quite underwhelming to me, so let me know what you guys think about Panic Strike in the comments below. The next change is to the trait Invigorating Precision, which is actually one of the newer traits that came into the game last patch. Invigorating Precision is a Grandmaster trait in the Critical Strikes trait line, and they improved the lifesteal on this trait from critical strike damage from 5% to 8%. Now, I was using this trait on a Pistol Thief in PvP earlier, and it's actually quite good. I like it when you pair it with Signet of Malice. There's a lot of synergy between those two. The next change was to the trait Ricochet, which is a master trait in the Trickery trait line. They added a 150 range increase to pistols, and apparently there was a problem with the third Ricochet on the Ricochet trait, where it actually wasn't traveling as far as it was supposed to be traveling. So they fixed that. Now, with your pistol, you will be able to do more AoE with the Ricochet trait. And the Ricochet trait with the 150 increased range to pistols almost makes it a must-have for anybody actually using pistols. Assassin's Equilibrium, which is a trait in the Trickery line, a Grandmaster trait, had its stability duration increased from 1 second to 1.5 seconds, and actually Trickery also gives you boon duration, so if you go Grandmaster you will get the 30% boon duration. So Assassin's Equilibrium actually turns out to be about 2.25 seconds of stability whenever you attack from stealth. Okay, so the next change is actually a huge one. If you use a Venom share build, you just got a huge buff. When you share your Venoms with other players, those players actually use your condition damage and your condition duration, meaning to say even if somebody's in a power build and you share a Venom with them, they are going to be doing as much damage as you are doing with that Venom. Now there are also a few added benefits to this. For example, if you picked up the trait Lotus Poison, which is a trait that applies weakness when you apply a poison to that target. When your teammates apply poison through Spider Venom, they also will apply weakness because of your Lotus Poison trait. And the healing effects from your Venoms, such as Scalp Venom or your Leeching Venoms trait, will use your healing power and power attributes and apply it to your teammates using those Venoms. So in this way you can also spread healing through the Venom share build. And the last Venom, the Basilisk Venom, if you share that with a player who has some sort of on-interrupt effect, they will also trigger that by using the Basilisk Venom that you just gave them. So the Venom Share build got a ton of buffs and a lot of useful things. I really can't wait to dive in and try different builds actually using the Venom Share. Okay, let's talk about a few of these other traits before we get into some of the bigger problems with these trait changes. Now, they increase the unload speed by 20%, so your dual skill on your pistol will actually shoot a lot faster. And I was playing PvP with it the other night. It's just so fun. You can dump out, especially with the new ricochet trait, you can dump out tons of AoE damage. It is still a little squishy, and that's something I'm going to have to tweak into that build, but definitely a lot of damage with the pistol build. And along with that, they increase the range Thieves unload skill by 20% on your ambush utility and your Thieves Guild elite. The double strike, wild strike, and lotus strike now hit up to 2 enemies, so they are putting a tiny bit of cleave on the dagger. And the damage of needle trap was increased by 10%, and now it applies 3 stacks of bleed on hit. Alright, well, let's jump into the topic that a lot of people are a bit enraged about, and that is the nerf to flanking strike and larcenous strike on the sword and dagger weapon set. Now, before, you could use flanking strike and unlock the larcenous strike, the next ability in that chain, without landing your flanking strike. So even if you were blocked or you missed or whatever, it would just automatically go to larcenous strike, and you could use that, which was unblockable, and you steal boons using that ability. Now, if you want to get access to larcenous strike, you have to have a successful hit with flanking strike. Meaning to say, if somebody blocks you or they dodge your flanking strike, then you just waste that initiative and you don't have access to larcenous strike anymore. Now, in a sense, I actually do agree with the change. I'm really torn on it. I think they took the change too far. And let me finish my whole thought before you go a little crazy. But I do agree with the change in a sense that they are trying to add some counterplay to the skill, so a thief can't just use flanking strike whenever they want to and unlock their larcenous strike, which is their big burst. And really, flanking strike is actually a lot harder to hit than you might think. It does have a large telegraph. And if you think about all of the classes that have access to multiple blocks, like Engis and Ellies and Guardians, it can be very difficult, especially with the increase to the initiative cost. You're going to be spending a ton of initiative. So what I think they should have done was they should consider a block a successful hit. You're not doing damage, but you actually did successfully hit that person. And if you think about it, it's a little silly that you have to hit with flanking strike to unlock an ability that's unblockable, but your flanking strike has to hit somebody that's not blocking. So what's the point of having your larcenous strike be unblockable? It doesn't really make too much sense. I do think if you miss or if the person dodges, then you should definitely not unlock larcenous strike, and you should be penalized for not performing your flanking strike properly at the right time. And on the blocking topic, I know some thieves might actually hate me for saying this, but I actually think that should be applied throughout the game, where a block is still a hit even if you don't do damage. That means if you are in a backstab build, if you go into stealth and you backstab a target and are blocked, I think you should be revealed at that point. Now, the second thing that was nerfed is Black Powder. Black Powder is the pistol offhand skill that puts down a smoke field that applies blind. They increased the interval between pulses to 2 seconds instead of 1, and they reduced the duration of blind to 2 seconds. So it's not going to be nearly as powerful as it used to be, although I really don't think it needed to change, because if you've had any experience in PvP, fighting a thief, all you need to do is just to stand out of the field, and then you will become blind. Now, if they were going to decrease the effectiveness of this skill, I do think they should have at least perhaps decreased the initiative cost of the skill to compensate. But again, I really don't see why this skill needed to be fixed in the first place. Okay guys, those were the thief changes that came in for the September 9th patch. If you aren't subscribed already, please subscribe, like, and make sure you comment on this video if you have any questions or need to say anything, and I'll be sure to get back to you. Thanks for watching, guys. That from them. So the damage in this build is pretty insane. Now, saying that, you would assume that we're very squishy, and that leads into survivability in this build, and it's pretty cool. It's a lot of evasion, a lot of dodging, and we get a lot of vigor uptime and endurance, just gaining our endurance back. so we can dodge. So if you were standing still and somebody's hitting you, you'd probably die in like 3 hits if like a berserker build is hitting you.